family, Spiggle here, bringing you my Girlfriend's Guru podcast, Talk, Travel, Transformation. If you peel back a butterfly's wings for them, they cannot fly on their own. I will be that person here next to you, guiding you through your caterpillar stage, to your cocoon stage, and finally to your butterfly stage, where you can be inspired and find your wings and fly. It has been my heart's deepest desire to curate my transformational experiences for all my wonderful girlfriends, because when I find something I love, the thing I love even more is sharing it with another girlfriend. Girlfriends, I am so excited about today's episode. We are going to be unpacking the 4 agreements. This little book, The 4 Agreements, written by Don Miguel Ruiz, gives us principles that can transform your life in ways that you're just not going to believe. And I am so delighted to have Tracy Podesta back for a back-to-back weeks of Transformational Tuesday. Tracy, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me back. It's my pleasure.
Tracy and I have done the 4 agreements as a workshop style and unpacked it, doing yoga to get into our body, breath work, and meditation. And then she has offered her life coaching skills as we've explored this topic. So before I go much further, let's just kind of give everybody the Cliff Notes version of the 4 agreements. Doesn't
Absolutely.
that work? The 4 agreements. The first one is: be impeccable with your word. Speak with integrity. Say only what you mean. Avoid using the word to speak against yourself or to gossip about others. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. Wow, that was only like 5 sentences.
That was loaded.
But we could talk the rest of the podcast about that, right?
We have 3 more.
So let's talk about first, Tracy, what are your thoughts? Speak with integrity and say only what you mean. How does that resonate with you?
We believe what we say represents who we are. And I think once we realize that our words are so powerful and they're literally the expression of who we are, we will take a minute to stop and think about how we use our words and if it truly represents us. Because we go into this life and on our journey, it's so important that we maintain that level of honesty with ourselves. And to speak with integrity is to give you that availability of truth, authenticity, and also the ability to connect with others in that same space.
Absolutely. It's through your word that you really manifest everything. Your word is force. And it's the power you have to express and create all the events in your life, don't you think?
Absolutely.
Be impeccable with your word, to me, is almost really about the misuse of the word, right?
It's kind of easier to go in that way, isn't it?
So we'll go back.
We'll go there.
Well, instead of talking about creating beauty, love, and harmony,
yes.
let's talk about when you're being impeccable with your word, and it's the incorrect use of energy, and it's using your energy not in the direction of truth and love for yourself. And one of those ways that I think happens to the best of us is gossip.
Absolutely.
Girlfriends, I know gossiping with another girlfriend it's cheap entertainment and sometimes fun.
It can be juicy at times too.
Hey, look, we've all been there, done that.
Yeah.
But the thing about gossip is it's a short-term connection. So I always tell people, imagine a light bulb. So, the filament that you have one end is positive and one is negative, and you have the filament. Well, like when you're gossiping, it's like this little thin connection, but it's going to just be like a flash, and then it's going to be pop, burn out.
Right.
It's going to be a short-lived connection, and then it's not going to be lasting.
Not at all.
And what do we want? We want true connection with our girlfriends.
Right.
And the thing is when you're gossiping with another girlfriend, you're planting the seed of distrust because they're thinking, well, what are they saying about me
Absolutely.
behind my back? So
There's nothing good about gossip, especially when we hold on to it for a moment. It's like a trophy. I've got some trophy news that I want to share with someone. And usually gossip in that moment isn't always the most positive thing people say about one another. And as women, we have got to really enlighten ourselves and find out why we are saying what we are saying. What is the reason we are gossiping? And actually define gossiping to yourself. I mean, definition of gossip is individual, but you have to check in with yourselves and say, is what I'm saying, sharing, passing along something that really serves the other person or myself well?
absolutely. You know how actually gossip is actually in our genetic makeup. So back in prehistoric
battle.
times, before there was the internet or you can pull out your phone, one of the things is gossip and spreading the word would keep tribes and people out of trouble, out of danger. Oops, there's a saber-toothed tiger over there. So it is actually part of our DNA structure that we are fighting against our programming.
Right,
So
right.
I will say, don't be so hard on yourselves, girlfriends, too,
Right.
because just catch it. If that's my biggest thing is if you could just nip it in the bud,
Well,
just
true.
a little bit.
And again, use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love.
The other thing that I want to touch base on, being impeccable with your word, yes, with others and talking about others, but think about all the negative self-talk that we do to ourselves.
Yes.
So, you know, how many times do we say, this shirt doesn't fit, or I need to lose 5 pounds, or I would, there's a lot of negative self-talk in our heads. How often do we use our words to break down all those teeny tiny agreements that we've made with ourselves from like past patterns? Can we instead say, wow, I look great. Oh, wow, I'm really, really awesome today, right?
I know.
I mean,
Because you are.
I
You
know.
are awesome, just the way you are.
but doesn't that seem so foreign?
Oh, gosh, yeah. Well, it's not the dialogue that we're having with ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah.
So remember in Top 10 for Transformation, I'm going to go back to that podcast, lots of episodes.
A lot of good stuff.
Maybe in your journal, think about, instead of Dear Diary and laying out all the negative, maybe do a few entries of positive self-talk. If you're not comfortable with it, maybe write it on a piece of paper, and see how it goes. It's just an interesting exercise.
Yeah. And I wanted to share one little bit from the book here, again, kind of on that subject. Self-abuse comes from self-rejection. And self-rejection comes from having an image of what it means to be perfect and never measuring up to that ideal. Our image of perfection is the reason we reject ourselves. It is why we don't accept ourselves the way we are and why we don't accept others the way they are.
That's beautiful. The second agreement, do not take anything personally. Nothing others do is because of you. What others say and do is a projection of their own reality, their own dream. When you are immune to the opinion and actions of others, you won't be a victim of needless suffering. Do not take anything personally.
That is a huge, huge life lesson. I think everybody can say that we take things personally, and it starts at a very young age. And especially as adults, we go into this life with our journey. Everything that we think or hear or see an action of or we respond to, it has to do with our personal experiences. And we think everything around us then is only to attack us because it's a self-talk. Again. So this is such a good one. Do not take things personally. That's our challenge. That's a great challenge.
When I first heard this, Tracy, do not take things personally. Nothing anyone says or does is because of you.
Right.
It actually made me feel lonely. I'm like, really? What? Nothing? Really? Come on.
It's not about me.
It's not about me.
Oh, I know.
We're laughing.
I know. Because it's true. We do that to ourselves.
But the thing that as I began this journey, I started to learn that as young adults, we had things that hooked our attention. And basically, we're put into our minds through repetition. So we all have these patterns. We basically, as we're young children, we learn how to behave in society. And thus, we develop a need for attention. It can lead to competition, and it continues into adulthood even. And basically, we have to be willing to surrender these outdated beliefs that were given to us as conditioning and start figuring out what our own adult agreements are.
Absolutely.
And sitting in our adult chair. I don't know what it is, but there's something in our mind that judges everybody and everything, including the weather, the dog, the cat, everything. Everything lives under the tyranny of the judge. I don't know. I have a judge sitting on one shoulder and a general on the other. The judge is like, hey, this is going on. And the general says, go deal with it, fix it, right?
Right.
The other part of us, though, that receives this judgment is the victim. And the victim carries the blame and the guilt and the shame. And this judge decrees and the victim suffers. And who is punished? Yourself, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So when you take things personally, this whole little dance is going on in your head.
Right.
I want to talk about the next agreement, and then I'm going to give an example of taking things personally and making assumptions.
Alrighty.
First, be impeccable with your word. Second, don't take anything personally. Third, do not make assumptions. Find the courage to ask questions and to express what you really want. Communicate with others as clearly as you can to avoid misunderstandings, sadness, and drama. And with this one agreement, girlfriends, you can completely transform your life. I think of these as stair steps. Be impeccable with your word. Do not take things personally. Do not make assumptions is a quick loop right behind taking things personally. And I'm going to give an example. And Tracy was just with me. Girlfriends, I don't know if you've heard of Norwex. It's these microfiber cleaning cloths that clean everything without chemicals, and there's no paper towel waste.
Right.
They came from Norway, and they remove 99% of bacteria from the surface with only water. They're like filled with silver, and I'm not going to digress. I could go on and on. I really, it's on my heart to start transforming, my neighborhood and raise the consciousness, so much less waste. My guru teacher, Sierra, has me on climate change and climate awake. So I'm just trying to be a woke woman and clean with rags. But anyway, so I'm telling you the story. So the way these are, it's like those typical at-home parties that you have. So you invite the girlfriends, you put out the cheese smear, and you pour some wine.
Absolutely.
And I had a good friend, Gatewood, came and educated the women about the Norwex product. The rest is history. I agreed to do this party before we did our Asheville Autumn Goddess Retreat.
Right.
I kind of got sidetracked, honestly.
Little busy.
Little busy. Yep. And I didn't send out my invites till like the week before. So then all of a sudden I'm sending this text evite. Okay. And I probably sent out like 25 because I'm panicking. I'm like, this woman is showing up at my house. Nobody's going to be here. And I'm going to have let her down.
Right.
So I was not impeccable with my word because I didn't do the steps. She very well laid out how I should do a Norwex party. I did not get that invite out. I sent an invite out and I realized there were women who thought, oh, this is last minute. I wasn't on the original list.
Right. Oh, my goodness.
I wasn't in the original invite. And now Kelly just wants me to come to her house and buy stuff, right? How many times has this story gone on in your head, right?
I know.
When I got the 20, I'm busy because we all have busy lives and things, our calendars fill weeks in advance. I mean, again, let's go back to present moment awareness and living in the present. I mean, our calendars are all so overbooked, girlfriends. And that's a whole nother episode.
Right.
But right now, stay with me. We all have our packed schedules. And so I was getting 20 no's. I was getting 20 rejections.
And what kind of assumptions were you making?
Oh, girlfriend, I was like, they don't like me. They don't want to come to my house. I mean, I was so sad.
I know.
Right?
It evokes all kinds of emotions when you get responses like that.
Absolutely. And you know what? They had soccer carpool. They had ballet practice to take. They had busy lives. that will actually lead me. I'm going to give you the bow tie on all of this.
Yes.
The fourth agreement, always do your best. Your best is going to change from moment to moment. It will be different when you're healthy as opposed to sick, but under any circumstance, simply do your best and you will avoid self-judgment, self-abuse, and regret. Well, I didn't do my best. I sent out the invitations late.
Right.
So I panicked.
Right.
I sent out a bunch of invitations where then assumptions by others could be made, and I could have an opportunity to take things personally. Remember, girlfriends, I said I wasn't perfect. I'm still on this journey of transformation. So I do it
It's a lifelong journey, everybody.
And there was one interaction. I had a girlfriend. She texted me, I'm just going to stay home and have dinner with my husband. And I texted her back saying, really? Like question mark, emojis, maybe whatever. She picked up the phone and called me. And I gave her a hard time. And I need to apologize because I was panicking and I felt the pressure to have some people show up. And this is a really good friend. And I just wanted her to come sit in my house. I'm like, really? I got the kind of wine you like, you know? And she just
I am prepared for you.
I know, but you know what? I shouldn't take it personally, and I shouldn't have made her feel bad. You know what?
I know.
She had a nice dinner with her husband planned, and I needed to respect that, right?
Right.
So again, apologies, girlfriend.
Yes.
I love you, and I hope you still love me.
Forgiven.
Oh, yes. Be impeccable with your word. Do not take anything personally. Do not make assumptions. Always do your best. Let's keep going with always do your best. I used to be Captain Overdo. So I always did more than needed, and that left me feeling depleted.
Absolutely.
That is something that I just want to unpack and bring to the forefront, that you can have just as much energy drain from not doing your best. You know, because I ended up spending a lot of energy knowing I had not done my best.
Right.
But also then I overdid. I went from one end of the spectrum to the other. It turned out, by the way, newsflash, magical evening. I had, you know, a dozen women. They all got educated on Norwex. They all raised their level of consciousness about waste and ways that they could change having chemicals in their house and things like that. It was the perfect amount of people.
Right.
Had I had 20 more people on top of that, it wouldn't have been as great of a night.
No,
we would have all been talking over each other.
It was not as intimate if you would have had
We
more.
wouldn't have been able to listen to Gatewood give all of our explanation. I just really want to highlight the correct use of energy behind always do your best. It's like the bow tie on the 4 agreements.
And I love it. I love always do your best, but almost as I, you know, review them and look at them and the way we studied them, this one was the 4th agreement. But let me just take a second here. I'd love to read these backwards. Always do your best. Don't make assumptions. Don't take anything personally. Be impeccable with your word. And it's amazing how in that moment, when we have that decision to, hey, am I doing my best? I can only do what I can do because we can't overcommit. You want to do more because we want to get more back to fulfill something within us. And I love this book for the purposes of when we go forward to say, wow, I've done my best, you know, but was it good enough? And you're making assumptions. Maybe it wasn't, and thinking what other people are thinking when you really don't know. And then when you take it personally, and, you know, that's the most hardest thing is when we feel personally attacked or something that we truly needed is not then given to us, and you know, we then are left kind of with an emptiness. But when we have that moment of like, I'm not going to take this personally, I understand that you were doing this and I honor that, you got to be impeccable with your word then, because you were able to give them love and light and wish them well in that moment.
Absolutely. I think stopping the action reaction process.
Love that.
And Tracy does a magnificent job helping educate women on this point. And just like last podcast was the review of the Autumn Goddess Retreat, we are going to do a Winter Girlfriends Guru Retreat. And it's going to be on the 4 agreements where we take, and we're giving you a preview, but we're going to take and unpack the 4 agreements and then talk about tools to avoid that action-reaction time.
Absolutely.
So that way we can change your choices and you can change your actions. If there's something that you don't like in your life, you first have to be aware.
Absolutely.
And that awareness is the result of being able to do something different.
And I'd like to say, in all of this, starting with this, self-awareness. It's taking yourself into this moment, and it's taking yourself into this part of your journey where you want to know who you are and how you react to other things. And this is the journey we'll take with other women, and we can unpack this, and we will be able to do our best, and we'll understand why we might make assumptions. And then taking things personally, again, it's just something that comes so natural to a lot of us, but it's something we really need to look at and love, because it's only given to you so that you can see what you need to do for yourself as you go forward. Because when we're impeccable with our words, we have integrity, we have a sense of self-esteem, and again, use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love.
And it's a practice, girlfriends.
It is. Daily practice.
It's a practice
Daily.
to be able to detach yourself emotionally for a minute. We all have these hooks, these triggers. I love the hooks. It's like it's like the big hook that kind of comes and gets you. And the truth is, something somebody says or something somebody does basically hooks our attention. And it brings us back to something that might have happened like 10 years ago or 20 years ago. And then there's judgment, and you've judged yourself harshly, or you've judged others, or there was some sort of suffering. I don't know what it is, but the truth is you're suffering, and you made that mistake 10 years ago.
Absolutely.
But you're still judging yourself 30 seconds ago.
Yeah. Because what happened is literally the hook or a trigger. I like to coach a lot about this. When you get a trigger, you take something personally, it's triggered an emotional response in you. The emotional response is something that actually happened years ago to something that challenged you or made you have an emotional conflict. So when you have this trigger happen present day, present moment, it's only a trigger of the past, and it's not really happening to you in the moment. It's just a memory.
And then that reaction
Yes.
that you just had.
Yes.
You find yourself, you judge it guilty. But the other thing, too, is you believe it. You have to remember, these patterns are ingrained.
Yeah.
So Tracy and I are going to do a winter retreat. All the information is on girlfriendsguru.com. Join us, because we are going to take the 4 agreements and help you break old agreements of how you judge
Yes.
and punish
beautiful,
yourself.
Beautiful.
And you then create new agreements with
Absolutely.
yourself.
Yes.
And that's the thing, is that these 4 agreements help you transform to make new agreements, and you can sit in your like adult chair.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
It's so empowering.
And you can release those agreements that no longer serve you. And
Amen.
it frees up that energy for your new agreements on loving who you are.
Absolutely.
It's going to be amazing, everybody.
It is. Once you've broken these old agreements and you can live with the 4 agreements,
Yes.
you can live just being ourselves.
Yes.
And now that is a big fear for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Our conditioning kept us safe. Our
Yes.
stories kept us
Yes.
safe.
Why do you think we have patterns in our life? They were our safety zones, our safety nets, our shields. And sometimes we need to put down the shield to get to the soul. Yep.
Absolutely. It's a journey, girlfriends. And one of the things I'm going to encourage you, just like I said in the first episode, and I created a book club. One of the first things I did after I had the 4 agreements wisdom given to me is I started teaching it in my workshops and my classes. But it's a book, guys. Go to the bookstore, get your girlfriends to get the 4 agreements. Have a book club discussion.
Absolutely.
Take an agreement a week and just talk to each other about that, and think about all the patterns and the discussions that could happen, and say, well, remember when you said such and such?
Right.
And who knows what's going to happen? So maybe make sure there's wine.
Or just tea. Hot tea for the winter, and your book by your side.
Absolutely. So, but I encourage you to get some girlfriends together, read the book. Let's start the conversation online. Find me on social media. Let's talk about this. Post your comments. I'm here for you, girlfriends. Tracy's here for you.
Love ya.
You are not alone in this journey.
Never.
So it is autumn.
Yes.
And releasing old agreements can be difficult. So I want everybody to imagine a big tree, and the tree is letting go of its leaves. Or does the leaf release its grip from the tree? It's the nature of cycles. A tree sheds its leaves every year. These patterns are meant to be broken. These chains are meant to be broken. And so I just want to give you the encouragement to explore that a little bit. Anytime that I am starting to feel down or things aren't working out in a way that I want, I ask myself, is it my core desire in this situation? Am I just trying to get energy or attention from other people? Or is it my desire to grow and transform? And as soon as I shift my energy into growth and transformation, I always find a way to solve the problem. The only way to change the world is by changing ourselves first.
Absolutely.
And so with that, I'm also going to say, don't start preaching the 4 agreements thinking everybody else should change. You can get yourself in a little sticky mess. You can be real passive. With my teenagers, I actually printed out the 4 agreements and I posted it like on the backs of their doors.
Oh, sweet.
And it's been there now for like 3 years. And so maybe it's subconsciously, but you know, I didn't push it. I just presented it to my family. And you know, it's become part of the lingo and part of the conversation, but it's a process, right?
And I love it. And, you know, we're big on breath. So I think when we take a deep breath in, release, and connect, and kind of read there the 4 agreements, we then have a sense of connection to ourselves.
The other thing I do want to point out is the 4 agreements, we touched on that it's a way to transform our triggers. Like say a negative emotion comes up, like let's take anger, okay? We need to learn to let it come up.
Absolutely.
And we need to feel it.
It's a gift.
And then we need to accept it and then need to let it go. And then only then can we move up the emotional scale instead of suppressing it. Just realize like it's only a pattern. You know, a lot of times, like I know for myself, anger is coming up from a need for validation. When I'm looking, where do I find validation? I have to validate my own feelings first. I have to find that validation within myself.
Absolutely.
When I am trying to seek validation from others, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? The 4 agreements? I mean, I'll take things personally.
Right.
I will make assumptions,
Absolutely.
you know, and then I'll try to be a people pleaser. Remember, I'm a reformed people pleaser.
That's right.
So I'm not going to do my best. I'm going to be an overdoer.
And because, you know, overdoing it, I assume it'll be enough and beyond, and therefore I'm fulfilled. But are you really fulfilled?
So girlfriends, don't run away from your shadow self. No. It's there to teach you a lesson. Every experience in your life is either there to teach you a lesson or it's there as a blessing.
And every lesson turns into a blessing.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
I'm going to talk a little bit about anger.
Oh, yeah.
Girlfriends out there, I have to say, you know, we all have a set of emotions. We came to this earth the same way. We'll go out the same way. But we are given a set of emotions. And anger is one of the toughest one for women to really deal with. And I know from my generation, I was raised to be seen and not heard. And, you know, any type of anger I ever had as a child, I had to stuff it down. So I love what Kelly has talked about, you know, honoring the anger. And I really mean what I said when it can be a blessing. The anger needs a voice. We have stuffed it down too long. It might even be a disease in our body, a dis-ease in our body. And so once we connect with the anger, allow it to have life, allow it to have a voice, allow it to teach us the lesson. What did we get? What do we need? Therefore, then, when we acknowledge it, love it, shed light on it, it becomes the blessing we truly needed.
Beautiful. So, Tracy, my first instinct before we close
Yes.
is to get everybody happy again because I just unpacked anger, and then I'm like, wait a second, that might be suppressing. I don't need to make this better. I don't need to make everybody happy. Maybe they need to think about their anger. So, with that, I wish everyone love and light. I hope this podcast, you got something from it and you can take those pieces and take it into your cocoon and keep transforming into that beautiful butterfly that I know you are. Thank you for listening. I hope today's episode has filled you with love and light. It is always my goal of every podcast to touch your heart and help you transform in some way. And if you are like me, when you find something you love, the thing you love even more is sharing it with another girlfriend. To follow and download this podcast, go to girlfriendsguru.com, as well as iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Join the Girlfriends Guru gang by subscribing to my website, girlfriendsguru.com. You'll automatically receive not only my latest podcast, but free yoga and meditation videos delivered right to your inbox. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram at Girlfriends Guru. The light in me sees and honors the light lit within you. Together, let's find our wings and fly. Namaste, girlfriends.